She used to call me her built-in best friend. I called her Sissy. And for 29 years, I believed that label was stitched into our DNA. Permanent, unbreakable, sacred. I was wrong. By the time the lawyers finished reading Mom's will, the same girl who once shared her last cookie with me, who held my hand through every thunderstorm, who promised we'd always have each other's backs, had quietly slid every single piece of our family fortune onto her own plate. And left me with nothing but a handwritten note that said, "You were always the weak one anyway." $8 million. That's what our mother left behind. And my sister, my best friend, my protector, my sissy, made sure I didn't see a single penny of it. But here's the thing about being underestimated your entire life. People forget you're watching, learning, waiting. This is the story of how I turned their cruelty into my catalyst and built an empire that made their inheritance look like pocket change. If you've ever been betrayed by the people who were supposed to love you most, if you've ever been called weak, worthless, or not good enough, and if you've ever dreamed of the moment when karma finally comes full circle, hit that like button right now, subscribe to this channel and buckle up, because what you're about to hear is one of the most satisfying comeback stories you'll experience today. My name is Emma, and before I tell you how I destroyed my family's legacy and rebuilt my own from the ashes, you need to understand what we were. The Thorntons. That was our last name, and in our Connecticut suburb, it carried weight. Old money. Not Rockefeller level, but enough that people noticed when we walked into a room. My great-grandfather built a textile manufacturing company in the 1940s that evolved into a corporate supply chain consultancy by the time my parents took over. Revenue? Somewhere north of 20 million annually. We had the house with the circular driveway, the country club membership, the annual charity galas where my mother wore diamonds that caught the chandelier light like tiny controlled explosions. From the outside, picture perfect. But inside those walls, my sister Claire was the sun and I was the moon, only visible when she wasn't around to outshine me. She was 3 years older, blonde where I was brunette, charismatic where I was quiet, business savvy where I was, well, according to everyone in my family, I was creative, and they didn't mean it as a compliment. Creative was code for unemployable, for dreamer, for the daughter we don't talk about at cocktail parties. Claire got her MBA from Wharton. I got a degree in graphic design from a state school. Claire joined the family business at 23 and became CFO by 30. I freelanced, making enough to cover rent in a tiny apartment 40 minutes away. But here's the thing, when we were kids, none of that mattered. Claire was my hero. She taught me how to ride a bike, holding the seat until I found my balance. She scared away the bullies in middle school who made fun of my braces. She stayed up all night with me the week before my college portfolio was due, bringing me coffee and telling me my work was beautiful. "We're Thornton girls," she used to say, linking her pinky with mine. "That means we're unbreakable. You and me against the world, Em." I believed her. God, I believed her so completely that I never saw the knife until it was already buried in my back. Mom got sick 3 years ago. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4 by the time they caught it. Dad had died 5 years earlier, heart attack on the golf course. So it was just the 3 of us, Mom, Claire, and me. Those 18 months of her decline were the worst of my life. I watched my mother, this woman who once commanded every room she entered, shrink into a hospital bed. Watched the colour drain from her skin. Watched her forget words, then names, then eventually forget how to swallow. I was there for all of it. I rearranged my entire freelance schedule to be at her bedside 4 days a week. I read to her. I moisturized her hands when the chemo dried them out. I played her favorite Glenn Miller records and watched old episodes of I Love Lucy because they made her smile. Claire visited on Sundays, sometimes. She was busy with the business, she said. Someone had to keep the ship afloat. Someone had to make sure there was still a legacy to pass down. I nodded. I understood. Of course the business came first. That's what Thorntons did, right? We sacrificed. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that during those Sunday visits, while I was home doing laundry or grocery shopping, or just trying to remember what it felt like to breathe without the weight of grief crushing my chest, Claire was whispering poison into our dying mother's ear. Emma's struggling, Mum. I don't think she can handle responsibility. She's always been fragile, you know that. If we leave her money, she'll just waste it. You've seen how she lives. I'll take care of her, I promise, but we need to make sure the business is protected first. I didn't hear these conversations, but I would. Eventually, Mum passed on a Tuesday morning in October. The leaves were turning, and there was this cruel, beautiful sunshine pouring through the hospice window. I was holding her hand when she took her last breath. Claire was in a board meeting. The funeral was elegant, expensive, everything Mum would have wanted. I gave the eulogy because Claire said she couldn't get through it without breaking down. I stood at that podium, my voice cracking, sharing memories of a woman who was complicated and cold, but who I loved fiercely anyway. Claire sat in the front row, dabbing her eyes with a silk handkerchief. 2 weeks later, we gathered in the office of Harrison and Associates, our family's law firm for 3 generations. The office smelled like leather and old books. Mr. Harrison sat behind a massive oak desk, Mum's will in front of him like a bomb nobody knew was about to detonate. This is relatively straightforward, he said, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses. Your mother was very clear about her wishes. I remember feeling relieved. Finally, something would be simple. He began reading. The house, the estate worth $2.3 million, went to Claire. The investment portfolio, another $3.1 million, went to Claire. The controlling shares of the family business, valued at approximately $2.8 million, went to Claire. The antique jewelry collection, the vacation property in Martha's Vineyard, the vintage car Dad had restored, Claire, Claire, Claire. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my teeth. And then Mr. Harrison got to my part. To my daughter Emma, I leave my collection of first edition books and the contents of my personal craft room, along with my hope that she will finally find direction and purpose in her life. Silence. The room was so quiet I could hear the clock ticking on the wall, each second a tiny detonation. I turned to Claire. She wouldn't look at me. I don't understand, I managed to whisper. Mr. Harrison, uncomfortably, there's also a letter. Your mother requested it be given to you privately. He slid an envelope across the desk. My hands shook as I opened it. The letter was short, handwritten in Mom's deteriorating script. Emma, you've always been a disappointment. I've given you every advantage, and you've squandered them all. Claire is strong. Claire is capable. Claire will preserve our family legacy. You would only destroy it. I hope you'll use this time to finally grow up. Mother. The paper slipped from my fingers. I looked at Claire again, really looked at her, and this time she met my eyes. There was no guilt there, no shame, no sisterly love, just cold, calculated victory. I'm sorry, Em, she said softly, but Mum was right. You've never been able to handle real responsibility. You did this. My voice sounded distant, like it was coming from underwater. You convinced her, all those Sundays. I protected the family business. Claire said simply. That's what Thorntons do. I stood up. My legs felt like they were made of water, but somehow they carried me to the door. Emma, wait! Mr. Harrison called after me, but I didn't wait. I walked out of that office, out of that building, and I kept walking until I found myself sitting on a bench in some park I didn't recognize, staring at my phone, with no idea who to call. Because the only person I would have called in a moment like this was the person who had just destroyed me. I didn't cry, not at first. I just sat there on that bench as the sun set, watching strangers jog past with their dogs, living their normal lives, completely unaware that my entire existence had just imploded. The books Mum left me, they were worth maybe $10,000 if I sold them. The craft supplies? Worthless sentimentality. Meanwhile, Claire inherited nearly $8 million in assets, and I got a letter calling me a disappointment. My phone buzzed. A text from Claire. Can we talk? I want to explain. Come by the house tomorrow? I stared at that message for a long time. The house. She already called it the house. Not Mum's house, not our house, just the house. Hers now. I typed back. There's nothing to explain. Her response came immediately. I'll always take care of you, Em. You know that. You're still my sister. And that's when something inside me cracked. Not broke, cracked, like ice on a frozen lake, still holding together but fundamentally changed. Because in that moment, I realized something. I'd spent my entire life being small, being the sweet one, the accommodating one, the one who didn't make waves because making waves wasn't what Thornton girls did. Except Claire made waves. Claire took what she wanted. Claire rewrote our mother's will in her own favour, while I was busy being the good daughter. I'd been playing checkers while she was playing chess, and I'd lost everything. I went home that night to my tiny apartment, the one with the leaky faucet and the neighbour who practiced trumpet at 6 a.m, and I looked around at my life. Freelance income, maybe $40,000 a year on a good year. Savings, $11,000. Family, none, apparently. Future, a blank, terrifying void. I opened my laptop. I don't even remember what I was planning to do. Maybe update my resume, maybe look for a real job, maybe just scream into the internet void. But instead, I found myself researching something else entirely. Digital marketing, e-commerce, online business models, and specifically, how people were making millions selling digital products and courses online. I read case study after case study. Ordinary people, people with less education than me, less experience, less of everything, building 6- and 7-figure businesses from their laptops. I read until 4 a.m, and when the sun came up, I made a decision. I was going to burn my old life to the ground, and I was going to build something so massive, so undeniable, that every person who ever called me weak would choke on their words. I started with what I knew: graphic design, branding, visual storytelling. But I wasn't going to freelance anymore, trading hours for dollars like some kind of corporate indentured servant. No, I was going to build a product empire. First, I created a course, Brand Yourself, the complete guide to visual identity for entrepreneurs. I poured everything I'd learned in 10 years of freelancing into this course. Every logo design principle, every color psychology trick, every font pairing secret, every mistake I'd watched clients make, and every solution I'd engineered. I priced it at $497. My sister Claire had inherited millions. I had $11,000 and a laptop. But I also had something she didn't. I had nothing left to lose. I spent $5,000 on Facebook ads, teaching myself digital marketing through YouTube videos and free courses at 2 a.m. when I couldn't sleep. The first week, I made 0 sales. The second week, 3 sales, $1,491. not life-changing, but it was proof. The third week, 11 sales, $5,467. And then something clicked. The algorithm found my people, the frustrated entrepreneurs, the small business owners, the freelancers like me who were drowning in a sea of generic advice and desperate for something real. By month 2, I'd made $43,000. I reinvested everything: new ads, a better website, email marketing automation. By month 4, I'd made $190,000. I quit taking freelance clients entirely. Month 6, $380,000. I hired my first employee, a video editor, to help me create more courses. Month 9, $670,000. I hired a team, customer support, a marketing manager, an operations coordinator. And then I did something crazy. I pivoted. Because while I was building this business, I noticed something in my customer data. My clients weren't just buying courses, they were asking for templates, done-for-you designs, branding packages. They didn't just want to learn, they wanted solutions. So I built them. I created BrandBox, a subscription service that delivered professionally designed templates, graphics, and branding assets every single month. $97 per month per subscriber. Within 3 months, I had 2,000 subscribers. That's $194,000 per month, recurring. Within 6 months, 8,500 subscribers, $824,500 every single month. And that's when the real magic happened. I'd built an audience. Tens of thousands of entrepreneurs who trusted me, who opened my emails, who bought my products. So I started promoting other people's products as an affiliate. Software tools, business courses, resources my audience genuinely needed. I made another $1.2 million that year in affiliate commissions alone. 2 years after my mother's will was read, my business had generated $8.7 million in revenue. I personally took home $4.3 million in profit, more than half of what my sister inherited. Except I didn't inherit it. I didn't have it handed to me by lawyers. I built it. From nothing. From anger and heartbreak and spite and sheer stubborn refusal to stay small. But here's the thing. I wasn't done. While I was building my empire in silence, Claire was running the family business into the ground. I didn't know this at first. I'd blocked her number, deleted her emails, removed myself from every family connection I could find. But then, about 18 months into my business journey, I got a LinkedIn message from someone I barely remembered, Mum's former executive assistant. "Emma, I don't know if you've heard, but you should know what's happening with Thornton Consulting. I thought you'd want to be aware." She sent me a news article. Thornton Consulting faces investigation for financial mismanagement. I read the whole thing, my coffee getting cold in my hand. Apparently, Claire, brilliant, Wharton-educated, capable Claire, had been making catastrophic business decisions. She'd over-leveraged the company, taking on massive debt to fund an expansion that failed. She'd lost 3 of their biggest clients to competitors. She'd made an acquisition that turned out to be worth 30 cents on the dollar. The business was hemorrhaging money. The board was calling for her resignation, and the estate, the house, the properties, the investment portfolio, was being liquidated to cover corporate debts. My sister was losing everything, and she had nowhere to turn. 3 weeks later, I got an email that made it through my filters because it came from a new address. "Emma, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need help. The business is in trouble. I'm in trouble. Please. I'm still your sister. Can we meet?" I stared at that email for 3 days, and then I did something that surprised even me. I said yes. We met at a coffee shop, neutral territory. Claire looked diminished. The confidence that used to radiate off her like heat was gone. She'd lost weight. There were dark circles under her eyes. She looked like I'd felt that day in the lawyer's office. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly. I didn't respond. I just waited. "I made mistakes," she continued, "with the business, with everything. And I know I hurt you. I know what I did was wrong." "Do you?" I asked. My voice was calm, eerily calm. She nodded, tears welling up. "I was jealous, Em. You were always Mum's favourite emotionally, even if she couldn't admit it. She loved how kind you were, how creative. And I was just the worker, the one who got results. I wanted her to finally see me as more than just useful. So you convinced a dying woman that I was worthless?" She flinched. "Yes." "And then you took everything?" "Yes." Silence. "I need help," Claire whispered. "The lawyers say I might lose everything, the house, the business. I might actually have to declare bankruptcy. And I know I don't deserve it, but you're the only family I have left. And I heard you've been successful, with some kind of online business." There it was. She'd done her research. She knew I had money now, and she wanted it. I took a sip of my coffee, let the moment stretch. "How much do you need?" I asked. Hope flashed across her face. "The lawyers think if I can inject $2 million into the company, we can restructure and—" "No." She blinked. "No? I'm not giving you money, Claire." The hope died. "Then why did you agree to meet?" I leaned forward. "Because I wanted to see your face when I told you something." She waited. "That letter Mum wrote me, the one calling me a disappointment. I laminated it, and I hung it on the wall of my home office. My home office in the penthouse I bought 6 months ago in downtown Manhattan." Her face went pale. "I look at it every single morning. And you know what it reminds me of?" She shook her head. "It reminds me that being underestimated is the greatest gift anyone ever gave me, because it made me hungry. It made me desperate. It made me willing to work 18-hour days and learn skills I didn't know existed and build something from absolutely nothing." I stood up. "You inherited $8 million and lost it because you thought money was the same as competence. I inherited a letter and a box of craft supplies, and I built a business that did $11 million in revenue last year." Her jaw dropped. "So no, Claire, I'm not saving you. I'm not giving you money. I'm not even giving you advice." I picked up my bag. "I'm going to watch you lose everything Mum gave you, the same way I lost everything. And then maybe, you'll understand what it means to actually earn something." I turned to leave. "Emma, please." I stopped, looked back. "One more thing. That house you inherited, the one with the circular driveway. When it goes to auction for your debts, I'm buying it, and I'm turning it into my company headquarters." Her face crumbled. "You and me against the world, right, sissy?" I walked out, and I never looked back. That was 3 years ago. Today, my company generates $23 million annually. I did buy the house. We moved our headquarters there last spring. Claire filed for bankruptcy. Last I heard, she's working as a consultant for someone else's firm, making a fraction of what she used to. I don't take pleasure in her suffering, but I don't regret it either. Because sometimes the only way to move forward is to stop waiting for the people who hurt you to suddenly care. To stop waiting for fairness. To stop waiting for apologies. Sometimes you just have to take your broken pieces and build something sharp enough to cut through every obstacle in your path. That's not revenge. That's resurrection. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been underestimated, betrayed, or told you weren't enough, smash that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel for more stories of people who refuse to stay down. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my shoes? Would you have helped her, or would you have walked away? I read every single comment, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Until next time, remember, your comeback is always louder than your setback.